February 4th, or is it the 5th? Yeah, it's the 4th. Larry is not with us again. We did have somebody from our team was driving through Arkansas on the highway that went by Conway, and so he swung by to stop and see Larry, and there was no answer at the door. The dog Rosie was going crazy. I just hit a link. I thought, just a second, something happened. Oh, I see what happened is I accidentally hit Bill O'Reilly's advertising. I just got an email from Trump Train News and about the vote, and so I was. Now my phone doesn't want to. So I was going to read it to you. Just give me a sec. Forgive the activity behind me. I've got things coming into the house for staging so we can put it on the market hopefully this weekend. Ellie's with us, and Ellie, give me a second. I've got to get her. Sorry about that, Ellie. I didn't have the double screen up yet, and I'm checking my. All right, my phone's not working. Anyhow, some rhino is supposedly not going to vote. Is going to vote for getting rid of Trump. I saw that Doug Jones from Alabama, red state, got in through a lot of voter fraud. Romney confirms that he will vote to convict President Trump. Well, of course Romney wants Trump gone because his son's involved in the corruption. I don't know if Romney's son is with Burisma on the board like Hunter Biden is, or if it's another similar company. But I strongly recommend that you look up Rudy Giuliani on YouTube. He is doing a series of shows. Today was episode 4. It's Common Sense episode 1, Common Sense episode 2. Today was Common Sense episode 4. He is going through the proof he has. He is giving the proof that he has, including interviews, including Joe Biden's own words about quid pro quo. And we heard Joe Biden laughing about how, well, I won't repeat what he said, but that he was going to leave in 6 hours. And if they didn't fire, was it Shokin, that they weren't getting the $1 billion. So, Joe Biden himself has admitted to that. And he's got he has an interview with Shokin that he described today. So anyhow, I strongly recommend you listen to that. There was, sorry, the older I get, the more I have my grandmother's throat and I choke when I swallow. It's terrible. Aging is a wonderful thing. Yes, Robin, I agree. Doug Jones, I think, knows that he's not going to be voted back into office, and everybody's going to be upset with him. And so, one can only wonder and guess that maybe he's being paid off to do that, like we expected Lamar Alexander to do, which is why I suggest you make calls to him. I did get a text message about 15 minutes ago. Somebody on our team who tried emailing Mitt Romney, and okay, Linda's in the chat right now saying she tried to send an email. His website does not accept any email, so it's very obvious he doesn't want to hear from us. So yes, Romney's son sits on a Ukrainian board as well, or does something like that. Romney, made some kind of deal that. Pelosi's son, Romney's son, John Kerry's son and stepson. So they're all involved in the shyster shenanigans. I called the president this morning, and I let him know how proud I am to have a president and first lady who have so much grace, dignity, and integrity. And I wanted to say thank you and tell him that I was praying for him. And when I told the lady that answered how often I pray, she said, I'll be sure. and let him know. He really appreciates knowing that people are praying. And frankly, folks, I pray just about every other hour, and I 24/7. I pray at least 5 times during the day, and I wake up. It's just a habit. My grandson has the same habit. About every 2 hours, when I go through REM sleep, as I come into the light cycle, I wake all the way up. I don't stay awake very long, but I'm fully awake. I pray. I know Satan doesn't like that, so I'm right back to sleep pretty quick because I don't stay up praying for very long because somebody doesn't want me praying. So on YouTube today, Pastor Casper McLeod, not YouTube, on Facebook today, Pastor Casper McLeod told a story that was very interesting, and then he presented a challenge that I want to share with you. During World War II, you know, the Germans were bombarding London pretty heavily, and they were fearing for their lives. And somebody who was on Winston Churchill's in part of his administration said, we need to call the country to prayer. They called for prayer every single day. And I don't know if it was at noon or what time of day, but they asked the whole country to pray at the same time every day. And do you know, within a few months, the war was over and the bombardment of England had stopped. God answered. And so Pastor Casper, he has a church in Georgia. He's a singer. He used to sing with some big name band before he came to Christ. He's got a couple CDs out. He just came out with a new one again. He plays guitar. He's led the worship for Hear the Watchman's conferences for the last few years. I don't think he's leading this year, though, at least not in March. But he has done that. Anyhow, he told this story on Facebook today, and he said, folks, I challenge you, will you please join me in prayer every day at 7 Eastern? So that's 6 Central, 4 Pacific. And he said, every single day at 7 Eastern, will you just spend 1 minute praying for the safety of our country? And, oh shoot, there were 2 things, and I thought I'd written it down, and I must have written it on a different piece of paper. Anyhow, the safety of our country, because of the danger we're in with the coronavirus and with the anger of the Democrats and the globalists, and the fact that they're not getting their way. And we're expecting acquittal, and the vote starts in just less than an hour. I've heard some of the speeches, and of course, they're your typical partisan speeches of the senators who are having a little bit of say before the vote. Let's see. Okay, Donna says that when running against Obama, Romney stated that his views are progressive. Yes, that, as Larry has told us, progressive is a name for communist. So there was another thing that I watched about an hour ago or half an hour ago. Somebody on the news, there was an interview going on, and I didn't catch who it was. But they said U.S. Code 2071 says that if you have custody and destroy, material that's supposed to be kept, you can be fined and forfeit your office and never allowed to hold office again. And they were discussing Pelosi's ripping up the speech last night before Trump had even got his final word out of his mouth. I saw an interview this morning. I think it was Fox and Friends. I'm not positive. It was an interview on Fox anyhow with Mike Pence, Vice President Mike Pence. He said he did not see her rip the paper up because he had just turned a little bit to greet the person that was coming towards him. He heard the paper ripping and wondered what it was, and he was immediately afterwards aware of what she had ripped up, but he didn't see her doing it. If this U.S. Code 2071 is quoted correctly, then she needs to be thrown out of office, stepped down, fined, and she's out of the speakership and out of Congress. Period. I'm just checking. I don't hear the car, the van driving away yet since they left the door open. Now, Diane suggests that her action was childish. I think, now I haven't heard anybody else say what my opinion is, but I'll tell you my opinion. I think she was sending a very strong message to the countries around the world. Don't worry about President Trump. You work with me and I will let you enjoy as much corruption as you want, because look how corrupt I am. I think that was what she was doing. Now, that's my opinion, and I have no way to prove any of that. That's strictly my opinion. But, there was definitely some reason for what she did, and that is just my opinion on it. Vice President Pence was asked if she was talking to him during the speech, and he said yes, and then he said, but she was talking a lot, and he was paying attention to President Trump, not interacting with her. So whether she was trying to talk to him, because I didn't see her necessarily turning towards him, but they were discussing on this morning with that interview that she was just sitting there mumbling and murmuring and muttering. So, and I'll tell you, the number of people on Facebook that are sharing that, the number of people on YouTube who are sharing that, I think it's really sad to think that with all the incredible things that our president said last night, positive about our country, positive about the guests that he had, 100-year-old part of the Tuskegee Airmen sitting there with a black man, sitting there with his black grandson, who's 13 years old and wants to follow his footsteps and go into be an astronaut. And this 21-week-old baby that survived and is now 2 years old. The soldier that they brought home from Afghanistan to surprise his wife. The Medal of Honor given to Rush Limbaugh that his wife put around Rush's neck. And to see Rush tearing up, I mean, he just about lost it. It was such a shock and surprise to him. He felt so incredibly honored. I understand his wife knew, but he didn't know that this honor was coming to him. And the president had asked him, he knew that he was going to have a lot of treatment this week and would be very busy, but asked him to please show up. And he didn't know. There was something a comment that I've heard before. I've thought about it as my parents are in their 90s, and I think about it with Larry when he so often comes on talking about being a scumbag and so on, and just I know a lot of it's humility, a lot of it is continuing guilt, but something I've heard for many, many decades, the important thing is how you finish. And, if somebody puts their hand to the plow, this is a scripture verse. Jesus said, if somebody puts their hand to the plow and turns around, they're not worthy of the kingdom of heaven. So we have to be very, very careful how we finish our life. And if we have had a relationship with Jesus Christ, not to turn away from him. It's important to continue and to be faithful and finish well. And I have a very strong opinion about this with regard to Larry. And I think that what he has done to share, to pray with us, the times that he has prayed with us have been just so meaningful, so incredible. And I have saved the prayers. I have them, and they're not just on YouTube, but I have written them So, let's see, I made a list of things to go over. The last thing I wanted to say, please remember to pray for Larry. And, if you will join me, I have put an alarm now on my cell phone to go off at 7 o'clock every day, 7 days a week, or every night, 7 Eastern, 7 days a week. I will be praying for a minute for the safety of our country, for the strength for our president and protection for him and his wife, for our safety from the coronavirus, our safety from the evil deeds that these globalists may be wanting to bring to our country, for Larry to come back and come back strong. And thanks for being here, Gloria. Anyhow, those are, I pray for members of our team. We've got a lot of people with illness. I'm glad to have Ellie back with us today after what she's been through this week. I guess that's all I have to share, Ellie. So I will just say, oh no, there was one more thing about Monty. Don't forget, Larry's PayPal is nicholslive@aol.com.
Mm-hmm.
There's a direct link at nicholslive.com. There is his mailing address for cash only. If you need to send a check, then you need to text my phone. And that number is, down here somewhere, where it says, please help Larry at PayPal. And then my phone number is on that little paragraph, the 240 phone number. Now, we have a generous offer from Monty. Monty has offered, if anybody donates $50 and does not have Larry's book, 28 Years to Nowhere. Just a sec, if you would like to have a copy of this, if you will donate $50, send me the screenshot of your PayPal, then I will call Monty and he will pay in addition to have a book sent to you. So Monty is going to do that for the first 10 people who will donate $50 this week, and then he will consider whether he can continue doing it on top of that. So the best way to verify and to get the word to Monty to buy the book for you is to text me the screenshot and give me your address. And I am going to, that's funny. The show didn't show up on my cell phone today, so I've got to try and, there it is. Okay, I'm going to put hopefully it'll let me, whoops, I forgot to turn the volume off my phone. I'm putting in my cell phone number. I'll put that in the chat. It's 240-499-6729. 240-499-6729. So send me a screenshot of your $50 donation to Larry's PayPal and send me your address. Thanks, Anthony. My phone number is showing up on my phone, but it's showing up after Anthony's comment, so maybe it'll come up in a second. Anyhow, my cell phone is 240-499-6729. And I understand with the discussion of Mitt Romney in the chat, I've heard that there is an effort being made to recall him. I don't know if that's true or not. So if anybody wants to send $50 by check, they can do that by contacting me, and I'll tell you how to do it. You cannot send a check to Larry. He has no way to cash it. Okay, my phone number did not go in there, so I'm going to have to find another way. I don't know if I go off screen or if the computer keeps me on screen when I go to my Word document and copy it for you. So just let me get my phone number in there, Ellie, and then you can take it away. It's coming right now. Paste and send. Send. There we go. All right. Take it away, Ellie. Your turn, my dear. Ellie, are you frozen?
Boy, I'm not going to be moving much, but because of the 3 wisdom I had pulled.
Whoa, you're breaking up real good. Ellie,
What was it?
Ellie, you're breaking up.
I had myself quiet for a second. Is this better?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you had frozen.
Folks,
Now we
had 3 wisdoms pulled, and 2 were previously pulled by a dentist, but he left half the tooth in there. So they were embedded, and they had to dig them out. And one time I told them to get the chisel and the hammer if it was faster. So I got stitches on both sides here and up on the top ear. And plus, I had a baby tooth that was still in my mouth. How it made it all these years, I don't know. So I do okay for a while, and then I hurt. So I made it about 45 minutes this morning. And so Mary Ellen took up a good portion of me not having to talk. So yikes, I'm done with wisdom, definitely. I told everybody it put comedy in my step instead. So I could do without the wisdom. It hurts. So I got some rumors coming through this morning. I had talked to, I believe it was Colin's office, and they said they are finding that there is a big majority of the Democrat Party that is not for what Pelosi and the squad is doing.
And Ellie, Steve Scalise had an interview today where he said, that there were Democrats who voted against the impeachment in the House. So he was hoping that even though Doug Jones has vowed to vote to throw Trump out, he's hoping there will be other Democrats, not just Manchin, but there would be others. He was hoping.
Yeah, so I'm keeping my fingers really crossed on it. And they said they were very unhappy with Nancy Pelosi, for sure. They were very unhappy to find out Schiff had lied, and that they do not like, in fact, they hate the support for the socialism, and they could make a stand today for the vote for acquittal. And so this was great. You don't always get them answering the phones, but they answered the phones this morning. So that was great.
Did you notice AOC and Frederica, Maxine Waters, I can't remember, there were a few other names that were not there last night. Their little protest was not to show up.
Yeah, I don't know. I keep saying that the aliens ate the brains of the Democrats because they're either plumb mad, crazy, I don't know. It's more deep than the Kool-Aid, so it's got to be the aliens ate their brains. So, and I know you don't like the alien stuff, so. It was only, Mary Ellen, the aliens only came down one time and they ate the brains of the Democrats. But it happened. That's the only thing I could think of.
Well, look at dear Chuck Schumer. The other day, when they were doing the impeachment, he comes in, he goes to somebody's chair, and then he crosses the aisle and tells somebody to get out of his seat, and there's nobody there. He must be.
Well, there was a doctor that came forward about a week ago that stated there are a lot of Congress and senators that are on Alzheimer's pills. And so I bet you he's one of them. Or either that or he had too much to drink at lunch. To me, he looks like a warlock. He's got that great big long nose, and he gives me the creeps. Especially, some of the stuff I dig up on these people, that just scary stuff. Some of the evil that they're into. especially when you get into the women and the spirit cooking. It's gross. It's really gross what they do. I seen this one video that a bunch of stars, like Lady Gaga, I believe, was in the photo, that they made a cake that looked like a body, and they had made it look like there was actual like guts and body parts, and they were all pushing each other out of the way to eat it. And it's like, that's sick, you know. And there was the other thing. Yeah, I don't know if everybody remembered the guy last night. His brother was killed.
Right.
And he was on this morning pushing the recall of SB 54. And what it did is it made a lot of crimes misdemeanors. And if this wouldn't have been in place, the guy that shot him would have been arrested, locked up, and wouldn't have been out.
Well,
And so
he was killed in California, wasn't he? Sanctuary.
Mm-hmm, yep. But it was because of the SB 54 in California that he feels that was the issue. Because, you know, they can't keep him on a misdemeanor for more than overnight or for 10 hours. And, of course, the judge on a misdemeanor is going to let him loose anyway. So people in California, if there's a recall on the SB 54, that's what it is. So, and her tearing that up, according to quite a few of the senators, that is considered a U.S. document, and you can't be tearing that up. It's signed. So, you know, like you said, hopefully she gets in trouble for it.
Somebody's asking who you are, so she hasn't seen you last week when you were on with me. This is Ellie. Ellie lives in Conway. A little
I'm
way.
a huge Larry Nichols fan.
And she does a lot of
mentor. I have learned everything I know to start with from Larry Nichols and Linda Ives. And when I started looking into the boys on the track, it got a little deeper. And then because of Larry, I looked into AFTA. And then I found that Pelosi and Waters and Kerry and all that was basically sticking up for nobody knowing about BCCI and the corruption of the Clintons here. And just the more I looked into it, Larry's name kept popping up. And so then I looked into Larry a lot. And everything I know, pretty much Larry, I've learned from Larry Nichols. I've been going ever since to push his cause.
I first heard about Ellie when she did a joint interview with Pastor Ernie Sanders one night on his radio show. That was a few months ago.
And I did with Jason Goodman with Larry Nichols too. And I need to get back with Jason Goodman to go beyond the boys. And that's why I'm doing a lot of the Clinton crimes now on my show, is to show the little crimes that show how deep the corruption is. And I know Larry's listed a bunch, but I'm going through and just grabbing every crime they've done from, the beginning until, they keep committing crimes. So, and I have a lot of fun doing it. I really do. And I thank Larry from the bottom of my heart for, showing me and teaching me throughout the years of what he knows. And he's got to hang in there until me and him get together quite a few times, and I get more info from him to keep his legacy going. I'll go to my ending days for him and Linda Ives to push the story of what they did. And one of the biggest reasons is the two boys were killed on the track, but there were others out there, and all the others have been killed. They say accidents, but we know different. And not to mention the older guys that were out there that day that were killed. And it just goes on. And over the years, there's been people here in Arkansas that's suicide or accidents. Every time they come forward, you know, it's an accident, it's a suicide, or, you know, who knows, or killed. We've even had one that was shot down in the street in Little Rock, but it was in gang territory, but it made no sense for this guy to even be there. And so, my viewers know, usually I do a Patriot show and corruption on Fridays, but I'm going to be doing Clinton crimes for a while until I get quite a few out there and start running out of crimes. But they sure have a long list of crimes. And, you know, my brother, he just enjoys doing the shows with me. And we're fixing to do the corruption of Ukraine. And we're using what Giuliani has put out. We're using what Glenn Beck has put out. And quite a few other stuff I found before the big protest happened in Ukraine, because I had studied and looked into Putin back then. And so I know a little bit beforehand what happened to give a full detail of what exactly happened in Ukraine. So me and him, my brother's going to tackle it and hopefully do a really good show on it. So I'm hoping Vince Foster, I had did a show this last weekend that of Peter Smith, and a lot of their details of both their murders really looked a lot alike. Jason Goodman did 3 shows on Peter Smith, and I got enough details that when you look at it, it just doesn't make sense. And some of the similarities between the two, between Peter Smith and Vince Foster, is really something. And I looked real hard into Vince Foster here and talked to some of the state troopers, and they just don't believe that he would have done that to himself. And not to mention, just the evidence alone didn't match the crime of him killing himself. And, you know, it's amazing that they can get people to kill people in certain ways. But then, you know, they say, oh, no, it's suicide. Well, there's sure a whole bunch of them that don't know each other that are killing each other the same way. Peter Smith, he did his with helium. And he was a friend of Charles Ortel. And so Charles Ortel spoke to him, I believe, either hours or the day before. And he said he would not even imagine this man would know how to do it with helium. And they got it on tape at the Walmart, him buying 1 can. But he wanted it out of the box, and no one can figure out why. And there's quite a few people that are still looking into the death. I did it kind of as a whodunit to keep people thinking and see if they could investigate it. Because I know my viewers, you know, we give them a good crime to solve. They're on it. And by the end of the day, they're sending me all the answers. So, you know, we enjoy doing that. I enjoy, you know, making them think a little bit and saying, well, how would you solve the crime? And I don't leave the end. We have a few that will go look up the videos and get the end and send me what they found, but at least they're honest and tell me they couldn't decide and ended up watching the end to get the answer. So, but we have a lot of fun. Yeah, I believe Val did. And just a reminder, we had our original page is called Investigators. And then when Facebook shut me down over the Sandman case with the Indian, we had to make a new page. So I posted it as the Investigator News. So if you're on Investigator News, please move over to Investigators. And it's just Investigators that don't have the news behind it. It's our original channel. It has a fire fist on it, is how people know it's the original page. And you know, we do everything from, oh goodness. I know a lot of people don't like Q. My brother does Q. I'm not real big on Q myself.
I'm not.
I would rather.
Ellie, I'm not seeing investigators by itself in YouTube.
Okay. Well, it's investigator news in YouTube. It's investigators on Facebook.
Okay.
It's just for Facebook because we post we do news. We're like a news source. So that way we go through and we grab all the really good news articles and we post it on our page so that you're getting all the news the conservative would like. And we weed out all the bad liberal stuff. And then we post videos. We post wildlife videos, wildlife pictures. We do jokes, recipes. We've done woodworking stuff and robots, NASA. It's a little bit of everything for really good news.
Ellie, is this your channel?
Yes. Yes. That is on YouTube.
Okay.
And you can watch the shows there. And I do post a lot of our the ones I make with the wildlife and NASA, and about once every other week I look to see what's hot on YouTube and I make a video of it. So there's planets, there's wildlife, there's pandas, there's storms. I've done tornadoes and all kinds of different things.
Is this your Facebook page?
Yes, that's it. So
just investigators.
So either one, if you want the news and don't want to have to go look for it, we're right there, and it'll follow it, and you'll start getting all the posts. I just love doing this, and I thank Larry. Back to Larry Nichols. If it was not for Larry Nichols, I wouldn't be sitting in this chair right now. I wouldn't even thought of doing news or being a journalist. I'm taking the courses to become a journalist, and also I'm taking courses, political science. And I guess from the test I took, they said I'm going to be a constitutionalist. So I scored high on the Constitution, which is great because that's what I was looking into. And I'm really into this, finding out the standards and the policies of the Constitution. And Giuliani and Dershowitz is right. You have to have the policies. You got to have the standards. And what they didn't do was, they voted on the impeachment, but before they could even subpoena or go any further, they had to have a vote on all that. And they didn't. Nancy Pelosi jumped in, said she was going to do it. And she made the policies invalid. And then the standards are, of course, everyone knows, bribery, treason, high crimes, and misdemeanors. And what got the Democrats confused is what I believe that got them confused was Alexander Hamilton had written a letter, I believe, to George Washington. And he was saying, well, it needs to be on whether they're angry, if they stole a chicken, or if they badmouthed their wife. And they made all these lists of things that they could get the president for. And that was everything that they had voted on it. And if it wasn't for Davy Crockett stood up and said, no, we can't have all this. We have to have it the highest crimes, because we just can't impeach someone for stealing a chicken. What if they're hungry? So thank goodness for Davy Crockett and him putting forth that it should be serious crimes. And that's where the high crimes and misdemeanors and bribery and treason came from. So I'm enjoying learning it. I'm enjoying learning the Constitution. But I'm a big history buff, so that's the kind of stuff I like.
Davy Crockett was the first person to argue before the Supreme Court pro se, but he lost. And the next person to argue pro se before the Supreme Court was our Larry, and he won.
When I was younger, who was it? Was it something Perkins? Who played Davy Crockett? in that old series or movie. I can't remember. Because when I actually seen a picture, I said, well, that's not him. But I was so used to, Davy Crockett looking different. I believe there was a Davy Crockett when I was real young. I'm showing my age here, I guess. Someone might know it. But it's amazing how they take it and they twist it, and then they start making up new laws. Just like when the hearings happened, it's always supposed to stay judiciary because of it's a judicial thing. And they moved it to Intel. See, that's another violation of the policies. But it didn't matter. And I wish the Republicans would have stood up a lot harder and said, no, you can't do this. Let's do it the right way. And let's do it right. And, let's go from there. But they didn't. They just kept adding their own little laws to it, which to me, if you go by the Constitution, what Adam Schiff and the Congress did made the whole process invalid. I can't say it's illegal, but it was invalid because they didn't follow the policies and the standards. And you'll hear that a lot. Even Levin mentions policies and standards. It took me a long time to dig up exactly what those were because it's so hard to understand the amendments. So, thank goodness my YouTube has not been, well, they did on a joke I did on, it was from the movie Airplane, and they got me for that. I'm having more problem with Facebook banning me. And like I said, the one was over Sandman. When it first came out, I had watched videos on how those grown men were going after the boys. And then the Indian had went over and got in their face. And I said, no, they're just picking on the boys. So when I put it out as news, I put it out that the Indian and his friends were harassing the boys. Well, within the day, my Facebook was banned, and they let me have it 2 days later, but I was banned off my own Facebook. I couldn't post. So I found a sneaky way of doing it and went in through the back way and still posted, but they banned me from my own news page for 2 months. And then they hit me up with another one over Sandman for another 6 months. And that's what made me have to start another Facebook page. So, but Larry, when I talked to Larry on the phone, he says, oh, don't worry about it, Ellie. Even Jason Goodman has 2 pages. He says all the greats have 2 pages.
Actually, so. Jason has 3. Jason has Jason Goodman, Crowdsource the Truth, and Crowdsource the Truth 2.
Yeah. For probably the same reasons. And, it's sad. And, there was something that happened with Facebook. They're trying to, it was in the hearings today. That's what it was. Ray had it was a hearing with Ray, and basically what they are going after Facebook because Facebook will ban people like me, but in the meantime, they're letting Antifa and extreme Islamic groups that are wanting to hurt people, they're letting them on Facebook. And so that was the big one that they put towards Ray. And the other thing that really got me was Nadler and Jackson Lee and a few of them. They were all about, well, there's white supremacists. We need to do something about all these white supremacists. And then they wanted to bring up Kavanaugh, of all things. Kavanaugh hearing, how unfair it was because there was other witnesses. And he actually asked Ray, when are you going to interview the other witnesses? This is for Kavanaugh, Supreme Court. That's so been over. And for him to bring Kavanaugh up, and this was Nadler that did it. And he was like, There's white supremacists that are coming in our country and attacking Jewish people. And no, I think it was the white people in New York City that was attacking the Jewish people. And it don't mean that all these whites are supremacist. I mean, we have had more problems with Antifa on our streets than I've seen the white supremacists. And I live in the South where they're prominent. You just don't see them here. They're really to themselves. I don't know about Utah and, over in the north west corner, but down here in the South, you just don't see them here. So, but Ray, he was also saying that the biggest child traffickers, they're being found on Facebook. That really surprised me. That was the one I definitely wrote out before I had to quit watching to do my game and then come here, was the biggest child pedophilia rings and sex trafficking rings they're busting off of Facebook.
Didn't they arrest 200 people involved in pedophilia on Super Bowl Sunday?
I think so. And they're getting them quick. They're getting them really quick. And thank goodness, And then to see Pelosi do that last night after hearing, how great ICE was, but they're anti-police, they're anti-military. And when he was talking what a great job our police department did and what a great job ICE has done, she was shaking her head no. I went through and watched it twice, and every time she shook no, I put down what it was that she was saying no against. And it was no to military payment increases. She shook her head no to. There was no to the low-cost prescription plan that they want to do. She shook her head no. No to the terrorists being blocked out of our country. No to the Second Amendment. No to school in prayers. No to the scholarship to kids. No to neonatal research and cancer research. No to tax credits and dropping the tax, annual tax. And no, definitely to the police department to catch and release. So, I mean, if you put that as their plan, is what I call it, that's just horrible. That's horrible. No, we know why they did no to neonatal because of abortions, but not to give us tax credits or tax relief or the military getting a increase in pay. We know they're against the Second Amendment, but I don't know if you remember in the beginning of 2016, they were like, we're not going to take your guns. We're not against the Second Amendment. No, we're not going to take them. You guys are conspiracy theorists. But look at what they're doing. They just lie. But they passed that bill that said Congress and senators are allowed to lie, not only on TV, but in the House floor when they're speaking. And that we need to get rid of that, because they sit in, like the hearings are having today, they can lie the whole time and there's nothing we can do about it. But how many people really know that they're allowed to lie like that when they're speaking at the House? And I always thought, with the hearings that they all swore in and wrote their name that they swore in to tell the truth, and they're up there lying. But that's the way of shift, and not to mention, I don't know if everybody heard, Schiff thinks that Trump is got so full of himself, he's going to sell Alaska to the Russians.
With all the oil up there, right?
But yet But yet, get this, I don't know how many people remember the Bundy Ranch. One of their neighbors, one of the biggest things that the Bundys were shouting was that Hillary and Obama sold BLM land to China. So they're allowed to sell our land to China and some of our national forest. But if Trump they think Trump has a big head, they're worried he's going to sell Alaska. And you know, you always say, Mary Ellen, you and Larry Nichols and myself, whatever they're accusing us of is what they've done. And when I heard him say that, I was like, oh my God, Pelosi sold Alaska to the Russians. I wouldn't put it past her, but you know, they've done so much, and it's going to take a while. Here in Arkansas, just what the Clintons did to us, it took 10 years to get us semi-normal, to where we had the right people in place to even start fighting corruption. So, and that's 10, and look at what they've done on a grander scale. It might take 2 terms of Trump and another 2 terms of a Republican to even get to the bottom of what they've done. And it's sad what they've done to our country. It's really sad. And I even said this morning, we all should expect our Congress, Republicans and Democrats, to be able to at least get along enough to pass the bills very speedy. But with the division between it, it's to nothing. Nothing's being pushed. And, you know, it's not the Republicans as much as it is the Democrats. Yes, Mitch McConnell does have bills on his desk, but he is passing them like 3,000 times quicker than Pelosi is. And she's only picking and choosing what she wants to pass whenever it makes them all look good. Like this last one, and she handed out little pins and made herself look like the president. It was just sickening. In between that and ripping up papers and what she did last night, you know, next year, I hope that they just don't show up. I mean, if they're going to do that and act like little brats, they just don't need to show up. You know, if they're not going to show any respect. And you know what? So many senators in Congress, I have heard that when they were part of the State of the Union, even the ones that went in there just to watch, they clapped for Obama. They didn't agree with him, but they stood up and clapped for the good points. And surprisingly, I heard right before I got on from Kellyanne Conway that there was at least half a dozen independents that were standing up clapping, and they're on the side of Trump. I didn't know we had a half a dozen, but, you know, maybe between the 2 Senate and Congress, we might. Or it could have been independents that were just in there. But that's good to know that the independents are at least for Trump. And, you know, when I looked into the independents, most of them are socialist parties. And that's scary because, you know, Bernie Sanders, he's not a real Democrat, but who knows if he's going to go swing it to independent or if he's going to stay a Democrat. You know, it's just, they're so wishy-washy. And then this thing with the caucus, oh my goodness, look at what a mess that was. And you know, the first report I got, and it was off of Twitter, was their numbers didn't match up. And then next thing you know, they're not getting any polls at all. And it's Clinton people and Obama people that made that program. And to me, it's a cheat. I bet you it was a cheat to get Biden on top. You know, that's my opinion. But, you know, when you got the Clintons writing the program for it, and the numbers are great for Trump in the polls, they're just awesome right now. The approval rating if you add the margins to it, is over 50% right now. And
I have a question, Ellie.
huh?
I have a question. Ellie's asking where was Ruth Bader Ginsburg last night, but I didn't see Clarence Thomas. And very often he is the designated Supreme Court justice who stays out of the Senate in case there is some kind of terrorist attack that we won't completely lose continuity of government. So they will always have at least one or more people, and it I almost wondered if why Maxine Waters was there. They certainly would be. Larry has said that the Supreme Court does that, but he's never said that they do that with Congress. So I don't know.
There's a few of them boycotted, and there was 3 that walked out.
Or was
and 2, and they say 2 basically just turned their backs and was talking to each other and wasn't even watching. So, and then Nancy Pelosi did that, and it kept showing some of the faces of them. I seen Omar and AOC, and they looked like they were playing on their phones, and that's why I said, why bother? Won't they just stay home? And we could put much more people in there that are Trump supporters. Maybe some veterans. Let the veterans have their seats. But for them just to show up to do that is just, it's disrespectful. It's total disrespect.
the lack of civility. They're leading the way in that. It's ridiculous. Now, I heard a really interesting comment this morning by Dave Daubenmire about President Trump. Here's Dave Daubenmire, very outspoken. He said, Trump has given us back our First Amendment so that we can make strong statements still. And he was praising our president for the example that he had set of telling the truth and being outspoken about it.
And my purple flower, she's asking, why does Congress lie like they are doing? Is it legal? Why is it legal? It's because they passed a bill that said they could. And I believe it's Jordan and Collins and McCarthy and a few other ones that are totally against it and want it pulled out because it shouldn't be allowed. And see, that was something they passed, I believe, in one of the budgets that, we don't see. And it's one of them little things they throw in with a mass bill to where it's not seen until it's too late. And they do that when they do the budget every year. They put in all these little things that no one tends to see until it's too late and it's been put in. And then, the Republicans are scrambling to fix it and get these horrible bills out. Either that or they pass stuff in the middle of the night. And
yeah, that a lot. Oh no, we're not going to pass it. We won't. Oh yeah, let's slip it in now when nobody's watching. That's why we need line item veto power for the president.
Well, that, and they're allowed to do insider trading is the other one they passed. So what Martha Stewart did, she was caught and tried and convicted for, but it's okay for Congress and Senate to do it. So, because I was going to go after Pelosi for insider trading on Visa, but then come to find out she's allowed to do it. And this is the kind of crimes that should not be allowed for our Congress and our senators. Neither side. And I'm hoping now that it's out that our Republicans aren't caught in that and they'll start getting out of the insider trading. Because there's people going to prison for that. And yet, Pelosi and her buddies get to do it. And that's where they're making their millions. And it's sad that they're making millions and millions. Not only that, but off the lobbyists and claiming that, we need to worry about the millionaires. Well, the only millionaires and billionaires we need to worry about is them. And it's just, they're so crooked. And who knows what other laws they've passed that we don't know about. that haven't come to surface. Like I didn't know the insider trading one until I started looking into it. You know, I'm always looking for something to, you know, find the corruption on them. You know, we dig and we dig hard and we dig deep to find corruption on these politicians. And sometimes we get stuff, sometimes we don't. We found stuff on Adam Schiff, but we can't verify it. I mean, we verified that the thing happened. We just can't verify he was part of it. And or verify that one of the guys that claimed he was beat up by him was actually beat up by him. You know, it's just hearsay. And you can't run a news page on hearsay. You just can't. You know, just like, you know, Larry, that's why he says you got to be so truthful. You know, we got to be truthful. And if you find us wrong, tell us, you know, and so we could straighten it out. We're not like CNN that we just go to the next story and hope you don't remember what we said. So that's good journalism, is when you could tell the truth and tell both sides. You know, if I hear something on Republicans that aren't good, like they're a pedophile, you betcha I'm coming out to turn them in. You know, we don't need pedophilia out there no more. And we got to save the kids. So we have.
I don't see anything else that we need to address in the way of a question. Why don't we call it a day? We're at an hour, and I'd like to watch the vote. So I really don't mind missing Schumer's speech, but I would like to hear McConnell.
Yeah, we don't need Schiff back up there again.
No, it was Schumer.
Oh,
Did I say Schiff?
yeah.
I meant Schumer. If I didn't say Schumer, I meant Schumer. So somebody said Schumer was talking and going overtime to try and deliver this vote. So the game plan is just sheer nonsense. It's awful. Anyhow, folks, whatever you can do for Larry, don't forget Monty's generous offer. If you donate $50, send me the screenshot of your donation and your address to me, and I'll pass it on. And Monty will buy the book. I told Monty that you have what's that, Ellie? I'll tell Monty that somebody has bought the book, but I will send your address to Mark, not to Monty. I'll make sure that Monty knows so he can pay for it, and then I will give the address to Mark, who will be the one to send it. So, thanks for being here, folks. Thanks for doing what you can for Larry. Keep him in prayer. Keep our president in prayer, and set your alarm for 7 Eastern, 6 Central, 4 Pacific for a minute of prayer every day. So with that, we'll call it a day, and God bless you, and we'll talk again tomorrow afternoon. Bye now.
Bye-bye.